Hey everybody, welcome to codezing.org. Got another level 1 project here. This one's the area of a circle. You can get the code and an example at codezing.org/area_circle. Let's take a look. If you go to the website codezing.org, level 1 project, go down to circle, and a little diagram of what exactly these words mean. If you're not into geometry yet, or you haven't done this in school, this shows you that the diameter is the full length across the circle, the radius is from the center to the edge of the circle, and the circumference is the total distance around the circle. So if you put in the diameter, let's say it's 50 units, it will calculate the area is 1,963.4954, and the circumference is 78.5398. So very cool, and Python obviously can give you the pi function. Let's check out the code and see exactly how this is working. Just a few lines of code to do this one. Copy it and go to your Spider IDE, paste the code in. If you don't have Spider or Python, head back to the website, follow the links to get Python installed. Let's see, first things first, we need to import math. So this is giving us some additional functionality that doesn't come in just the regular Python. As I've said quite a few times now, that I think of the import function kind of like adding an app to your phone. That you get all the functionality just by downloading it to your phone. This is kind of the same. When you say import, you're importing a lot of extra code kind of behind the scenes that you don't see, but it gives you access to all of this other code that has been written for you. There's literally tens of thousands of libraries that people have written for Python that are all open source, that can be used with just a quick import statement, and you get tons of functionality. All the people doing artificial intelligence and machine learning and all that stuff, there's really great Python libraries for that. It's probably beyond a level 1 beginner class, but just to let you know, that's why people love Python so much. There's tons of libraries that can be easily added. So now that we have math, we're going to use that I think later for pi. So math.pi just gives you the mathematical value of pi. Let's print that out. What is math? Anybody know pi? Math.pi. What is pi? There it is. 3.1415926535. Any of you that want to memorize pi, you can get it out of Python. At least a good number of digits there. So that's what the math library is doing. If you forgot your import statement, you will see. Stop that. You will see that we enter our diameter, and it did. Oh, because I already ran it once, it imported it. If you started from scratch, once you run the import, it remembers that you imported it. If you run it from scratch, from a brand new Python console, it should die on you. So the import math now should be good to go. All right, let's look at the mathematics that it's doing here behind the scenes. So the first one is just the standard input interacting with the user. It's posting enter diameter of circle to the screen below, as we saw, and then taking the input by the user and assigning it to the variable diameter. It's also converting that into an integer. That's what the int brackets are doing here. So int is just turning this text that it's getting into an integer so that I can do apply a mathematical formula to it. This is the actual calculation here, area and circumference. So it's rounding, just for pretty display. It's rounding to the 4th decimal place. And the calculation is diameter, which was input up here by the user, diameter divided by 2, and then squaring that. So 1 asterisk is multiply and 2 is exponent. So that's diameter squared, and then, excuse me, diameter divided by 2, and then squared times pi. Will get you the area, and it's rounding up to the 4th decimal place. For circumference, it's doing diameter divided by 2 times pi. And again, rounding that to the 4th place. The 2 last lines are just printing that back out to the console. It'll print this text, the text that we put in here, area of a circle is, and then the comma separates it from the variable, and then it prints out the variable value. Let's run it one more time because it's so cool. There we go. Area of a circle, 3,848, and circumference 109. Very neat. If you don't do round, that's not a problem. You definitely don't have to round off your answers, but especially when doing the circles, you're going to get a whole lot of decimals if you don't round it. Let's see. 70? Yep. And I just think it looks a little weird. That's why I did the round, but you certainly don't have to round if you don't want to, or if you're looking for some extra accuracy. If we forget to do the int, we're going to have issues here too. So let's see if we try to do it that way. And put in 70, and it's going to say unsupported operand types for string and int. So it is taking this string that we input, the 70, keeping that as a string, and then trying to divide it by an integer. So it's taking the string version of 70 and dividing by 2, and then having a little bit of a fit there because it can't do that. And we can even see, if you want to know if you get an error like that, and you're just like, what's going on? What is the problem here? You can get the type displayed by doing that. So if you call type on any variable, it'll tell you what type it is. Like we can even go down here, print type area, and circumference. Hopefully I spelled that right. So if we run this, we can see if you go to the top of the error, you'll see that it says that's a string, that's a class string. We don't want that, we want it to be an int. So we'll surround that in the int and then the brackets to enclose it. If we run that, we are going to see that this is an int. Then the next area is a float, which is, so an integer is any whole number, positive or negative, but not a fraction, no decimals. Float is any real number, and it does have decimals. So the reason Python has 2 different types is if you know you're not working with decimals, it saves memory space to just call it an int. Then it doesn't have to use as many bytes in the memory to store that value. But you could make this a float if you want. Just call float. So if you call float on the input, it will store it as a float. It uses up just a teeny tiny bit more memory, which doesn't matter for our purposes. So if we do 70 again, we can see it's storing it as a float and then calculating the other 2 as a float. As a general note, if you do the division process, it's going to convert it into a float. Because if you divide, you almost always end up with a decimal, so it automatically converts it to a float, which is really nice because most programming languages won't do that. It would just error out and say, I can't give you back an int, I can't understand. So this one automatically converts the type from int to float once you divide. Alright, so a lot of good stuff on variable types, doing some mathematics, interacting with the user a little bit. Hopefully that was fun. If not, it's certainly building towards cooler things in the next levels, so definitely stuff you need to know. Alright, if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments to the video or email me, info@codezing.org. Alright, good luck.